Welcome, everybody, to Inside the Cardinal Playbook with head coaches Jill Cress and Larry Holley. I'm Rick Cole of the William Jewell College Sports Network. Coach, you're off to another kind of fast start. You've had a couple of tough games. The Pittsburgh State game comes to mind. They were very good, but how do you qualify your play at this point?
I don't think we've been real consistent. I thought, when we played Upper Iowa, they were a really good team, and I thought we played really well against them. Graceland came in, and I'm not sure they were a really good athletic team. I wasn't sure that our consistency of play hasn't been where I wanted it to, especially defensively for us right now.
You have always prided yourself on playing that good defense and generating offense out of that defense. Has that been the case this year, or has it been kind of a different kind of a defense?
Yeah, it's kind of been up and down. There's been, I think when we played Upper Iowa, it's been our best. I think when Northwest Missouri State, towards the end of the game, it's kind of, we played the way we had to play defense, where it was kind of, we were going to lose badly if we didn't. And that's kind of how you need to play the whole time. With kind of the energy and not being afraid to make a mistake, and it hasn't been what I thought it would be right now. I think athletically we're probably one of the most athletic teams I've had. It's just kind of learning the rotations and learning. I think they're getting the rotations right. I don't think they're as sure of themselves, and when the ball gets ahead, we're not sprinting back, and those are all fixable things. And to be 4-2 and not be real pleased with the defensive part is probably, a good thing. So I think it's things that we can get fixed.
Let's break down your schedule a little bit, starting with a very good opponent in Central Missouri. That was your leadoff game. Tough way to open up. Yeah,
actually it was a game that we weren't originally going to play, and then it was the opportunity to play them and give us a guarantee and kind of an early test for us. And again, they're a great team. They were preseason number 7 in the nation, or number 8. They have had one loss now, but I thought that showed a little bit of character for us, because we didn't. We have a young team, but we didn't just drop our heads and stop battling. I think we battled the whole game, no matter what the score was, and that's something you want to see as a coach, that you got players that are willing to fight and don't give up. And so that was a good test for us. I thought, we bounced back pretty well with that and go to Northwest Missouri State and winning 2 games there against 2 other MIAA teams, with Lincoln, and then to play Northwest and be able to win there. And you look at that schedule, there were a lot of games in a row, and then to bounce back and go right back with Upper Iowa. Even the Upper Iowa coach was like, "Who did your scheduling?" And I'm like, that was me. But I think it was a good test early for our kids. And then with Graceland and Thanksgiving break, it was, I wasn't extremely pleased with the game, but we won, and a high-scoring game. I think our schedule with scheduling, the Central Missouri's, the Pitt States, the Upper Iowa, is a good test for our players, and is good from a coaching standpoint to kind of see the kind of kids and to see where we want to go. I mean, we're a pretty young Division II team, and we were always ranked pretty high in the eye, and I know the players that we recruit, players that we have, and from coaching staff, that's where we want to be, Division II, and so it's good for a measuring stick for us, I think.
Let's talk about the Winstead-Reeves tournament at Northwest Missouri State, because you got by Lincoln. I think you handled them pretty easily, but then Northwest Missouri State has always been a tough matchup for you, and yet you've beaten them now 3 years in a row. Had to come from behind this year to beat them. Yeah,
actually the last 2 years we've come from behind. I think last year we were down 9 with about 4 minutes left and came back, and I think our players really get up for that game, and they've got a new coach, and he does a great job, and he'll get those kids going, and he'll bring in some other players. But for us to be able to go into their place and the last 2 years be down and to battle back and to pull out a win, I think again speaks very highly of the type of players that we have. Not from a coaching standpoint, I just think they have a lot of heart and they're competitive, and so there's always a lot to build on when you have kids like that.
Upper Iowa, Graceland University had to rally from double digits down in the first half in each of those games. I know your kids believe you're a second half team. They've said that.
Yeah.
Is that something you don't want to start relying on, though?
Yeah, I don't want them to go in there and think that's okay.
You're right.
It'd be really nice if we could get off to a good start and then be a second half team also. But it has been like that, and I tell players we don't want to be known as a second half team. We want to be known as a complete team. And
sure.
I'm not sure. Kind of looked at some things. Maybe we're not warming up right before we start the game, or what it is. But Yeah, I mean, we're going to get caught sometime where we dig ourselves too deep of a hole, and last year that happened to us with Upper Iowa when we were down their place. We were down 22, and it seems like the last 2 years we've kind of struggled with that first half, and if we can be within 10 by a halftime, I'm feeling okay.
Let's talk about some of the players, and let's start with your senior, Chelsea Meeks. She goes over 1,000 points for her career.
Yeah.
Don't make a big deal about those kind of things until later on. Yet that's something that obviously it's a milestone for her.
Oh, it's a huge deal. It's really a compliment to her as a player. One of the things a lot of people don't know is she's going to be in our probably top 5, top 10 in assists also,
Right.
Which to me is even a neater accomplishment, that you can have somebody that can score as many points but also be as unselfish as she is. And she's somebody, she'll tell you that I've been on her for 4 years to shoot more. She's a great shooter and player. And yeah, I kind of take some criticism sometimes about, not from my players ever or the families that know me, that I don't make a big deal. I don't. You go some places and they'll stop the game
right.
and present a ball to them. And really big on family and being the team aspect. And when the banquet comes, she'll get quite a few honors and recognitions there. But I know as a player too, Chelsea, extremely unselfish. I'm not sure she would have been comfortable with a big to do either.
Well, in the post-game interview, the first thing that she did was credit her teammates because she said it was part of the whole team concept. And I know that's kind of what you buy into also.
Yeah, she really, she's never been a stat person, and I'd get on her all the time about passing up some shots, and for a while it really frustrated her because she, I think she takes more pride in her assists than she does in her scoring, which is really neat as a coach that you have somebody that's that unselfish. And I've had quite a few players that have been like that, and I think that kind of goes with the success that we've had with our program, is you have kids that are really buy into the whole team before themselves, and Chelsea certainly is one of those players.
Cassie Nicolay, she's had her struggles this year, not struggles so much, but she's been distracted with student teaching, and yet she continues to be just very consistent, a 5'9" post player for you, who's going to be one of the smaller posts in the GLVC when we get to that part of the season.
She definitely is. She was small when she came in and we played at the NAI levels, but her heart is so much bigger. I'll tell you, she gets the most out of her potential. I mean, she's an overachiever in everything that she does, and she's probably her biggest critic. She gets really hard on herself, but super competitive, great leader, great encourager. And you always know, she might not come out and score a lot of points in a game. Sometimes she will, but you always know the effort. I don't ever have to question her effort during practice, her effort in a game, and I love that. And just a great person on and off the floor, and she is doing her student teaching, and to balance that, I did that through college, and that's a tough balance.
Yes, it is.
And I've talked to her principal where she's teaching, and he kind of says the same thing, just describing her. He never has to worry about
I have no doubt she can be a good teacher.
Oh, great teacher, and I've been really blessed to coach her also.
Right. And finally, and we'll have a chance to talk about a lot of these kids through the year, but let's touch on all the seniors. Jessie Wheeler has not really shot the ball, at least not in the home games we've seen, as well as she has in the past, but I know she contributes an awful lot to your team.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I think Jess Wheeler is probably the most unselfish player I've ever coached.
Really?
She's somebody, everybody wants to start, and she's somebody that could start for us. I kind of do some things differently. I've had other players, Faith Pontius was a player that I always got questioned why she doesn't start, and I like to see what's going to do best through the whole game, and Jess Wheeler is somebody that comes off the bench, and sometimes when you start and you kind of hit a dry spell, you need a spark, and she's somebody that both offensively and defensively, if you watch in our games, we might get a little bit of a lull going, and she comes in and gets things going, and she can attack the basket. If you watch her go in, she is great with her right hand, left hand. She does a nice floater. She also can shoot the three, and when we need it, you look at last year, and 2 years ago even when we were in Vegas and she hit the game winner, there were times that she's been in that spot to hit the game winner for us, and I think last year she did. I can't name the games, but
Northwest Missouri State, I think.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, she did it 2 or 3 times for us. Just a gamer, extremely competitive, and when I kind of talked to her about where I saw her role for us, really grabbed hold of that.
Yeah.
And she's also just an exceptional teammate and leader. She with anybody. She can fit in with absolutely anybody. And sometimes with girls you get sometimes little groups, and never seen that with her.
Yeah.
She's just a really good all-around person. And when I look at my 3 seniors, I'm pretty fortunate to be able to coach those 3, and I think that's also something William Jewell attracts, is just players that really have their priorities. They're all great students and just really great people, and put on top of it, they can play basketball. It's really nice, really good thing.
That's head coach Jill Cress. We'll be back with Coach Cress in a couple of moments, but next up is Larry Holley as we continue inside the Cardinal Playbook.
Tanner's is new to Liberty, just south of the Highway 152 and I-35 intersection. They're open Sunday through Tuesday from 11 a.m. until midnight, and Wednesday through Saturday from 11 until 1:30 a.m. Come in any day for food specials in the spacious dining area. Happy hour specials are served from 2 spots in the building, and the service is fast and friendly. Tanner's of Liberty, just south of the Highway 152 and I-35 intersection.
Back inside the Cardinal Playbook with head coach Larry Holley of the men's basketball program. Coach, you have made fun, I guess, a little bit of having a losing record here, but you haven't backed away from anybody either in this non-conference schedule. How tough has this schedule been for you?
Well, it's probably been a little tougher than we wanted it to be, but it's going to get us prepared for conference play. We're playing 4 games after we play Southwest Baptist. We'll play 4 games against the MIAA,
right,
which is one of the top conferences in the nation, and so it's tough, it's challenging, but it needs to be. And Upper Iowa came in and beat us here on our home floor, and they're a top team in the North Central Conference, so it is a good non-conference schedule. We had our chances against Northwest Missouri State, which is the top team, and we had our chances against Upper Iowa. Missouri Western kind of had their way with us a little bit. Pitt State was a nice win,
right,
even though they were playing without their top player. But it's a challenge every time out, and we don't have an inside presence offensively as we have in the past, so that's an adjustment for us. We're running more. I like the style of play. We're pushing it, and so our threes this year will be from behind the arc rather than the old-fashioned 3, the field goal and the free throw probably. But I like our squad, and I like the direction we're going.
The MIAA provides you a lot of competition. That Pittsburgh State game, as you mentioned, was maybe your best game of the year. I don't know. How do you feel about that? Because, again, you say they're missing their best player, but you also played very well.
We did, except for the last few minutes of the game. I mean, when you're up by 28 or whatever it was, on a team like Pitt State, that's pretty significant. Now, we were shooting lights out. We were playing great at both ends of the floor, and we were going with our smaller lineup, and things went our way. You can play well, or you can shoot well, and be competitive. If you get them both going on, you got a real chance to win. And we shot it well and played well that night.
We're going to talk a little bit more about the non-conference schedule and the effect that it has on your team when we visit with Jill Cress again here in a moment. But for the most part, do you try to pick opponents for the non-conference that match your needs for the coming year, or is that too complicated? You just have to kind of go out and find open dates?
Well, Rick, we have a requirement that we have to play 22 games versus NCAA Division II opponents. And we have 18 conference games in the GLVC, so we will play a minimum of 4 additional ones. I think we're playing 5 this year, playing 23 of our 26 against NCAA Division II. And then we try to pick close, so it cuts down on the cost, but there's a lot of D2 teams in this area. The MIAA conference, we're kind of surrounded by those guys from Missouri and Kansas, and so we play 4 of them this year, and none of them are overnight trips, so we'll go and come back on the road, and the other team likewise will come here and go back on the same day. So And then Upper Iowa is at the end of a 2-year contract, and we did that for a couple reasons. Brian Dolan was our head men's coach when we did the contract, and he was in our program here at William Jewell, both on the men's and women's side. Women's side as a coach, obviously, and then so we played up there, and that's close to Coach Cress's home, and
Sure.
her family doesn't get to see her teams play as much as she would like. So we made the trip up there, and unfortunately for us, we went 0-2 in the series, and she split. But it's a so you're required to do that, and so we don't have any problem finding teams to play. And you want to have a balance. Certainly, we've played Newman in the past, in NCAA Division II out of Wichita. We'll start a new contract with them starting next year, and we'll play Southwest Baptist here next year. We'll just see how that all works out. But
Right.
the Missouri Western Classic has been good for us. It's less than an hour away, and we get to play Missouri Western and Northwest Missouri State each year. We went 0-2 this year, but I think we got better because of that weekend. And Coach Cress that same weekend plays in a tournament at Northwest Missouri State and gets into NCAA games. So it's a test for us, and then we try to bring in some schools for what are called guarantee games, where they'll play here, and we won't return the game. And you hope you're successful in those games. Not always the case, but certainly we'll continue to do that as well.
Graceland was one of those guarantee games that you talked about. Noteworthy because, first of all, for the win, but 77 free throws shot in the game. It's that new touch rule. It's a lot of fouls being called. Let's talk about that for a moment. First of all, how do you like the rule at this point?
I like it if it's called correctly, or at least my version of correctly. We had a game against Northwest Missouri State. We played extremely well for most of that game. We didn't shoot a free throw in the second half.
How is that possible?
Well, we'll discuss that, I guess, with the commissioner of officials. But I'm not saying it was called incorrectly.
Yeah.
Both teams adjusted to it. It was a good game. They shot some free throws in the second half, but we didn't shoot one in the second half. And then we did against Graceland, and my goodness, how many free throws were shot?
77.
Yeah, and we ran out of memory on our video card. We didn't have enough to even record the whole game. So it's what's frustrating for us as coaches. What's frustrating for the players is being consistent with things. And each game is different, but if they're consistent within that game, players can adjust, coaches can adjust. We struggled in both those games with the adjustments because we had shot several free throws in the first half against Northwest and then don't shoot any in the second half. And so I don't think they changed officials at halftime. And it was a veteran crew. I mean, it is an adjustment.
Quickly, I want to talk about your lone senior this year with Devontae being a senior, Devontae Bell. You have two Devontaes. He has really put up some nice points for you. Talk about the senior, if you would, for a moment.
Well, really proud of Devontae. You know, he's had some injury situations and some situations where he came off the bench, and we brought him in as a point guard out of Clayton High School in St. Louis, and I did not get a chance to see him play in person. He was available late. We had him in on a late visit, and from the moment I saw him in our workout, I knew he was somebody with outstanding potential. He's a gifted athlete. He's small. He's only about 5'10". I think if you asked him, he's probably put on 15, 20, maybe more, maybe 25 pounds since he's been here through our
Still not very big.
Still, yes, through our strength and conditioning program. But he's an exceptional athlete. We're undersized at the guard position. We start 2 5'10" guys. Last year, he came off the bench as the backup point. Eventually, beat out our 2 guard and became the starter at the 2, and was very effective. So we have both our guards back, and he's our leading scorer right now, doing an effective job. Again, he's an exceptional athlete, even though he's only 5'10". Most of the 2 guards in our league are anywhere from 6'1" to 6'5", and so it's a test for him defensively, but it's also a test for them at the other end. A lot of times as a coach, I'll worry about the matchups for us from our defensive standpoint, and I forget that that's also a mismatch for them in some ways. But I'm proud of his leadership, proud of his work ethic, proud of how he's grown as a person, and certainly as a basketball player. So proud of what he's done. I know he's going to have a very fine team year.
That's Larry Holley inside the Cardinal Playbook. Jill Cress rejoins us in a moment for Coach to Coach when we return.
What should we do?
Better call our shelter agent.
Yeah. Hey, Tom, you got a sec?
Yeah, sure.
We know what the weather is like in your area because we live in your area. Shelter Insurance. For your auto, home, and life. We're your shield. We're your shelter.
Ask Shelter Agent Kimberly Sidden about Shelter's competitive insurance rates.
Before the game or after the game, it's Poor Boy Oil Company for your pre- and post-game food and beverage. ConocoPhillips and BP Amoco Fuels get you to the game, and our large vendors give you great food and beverage choices before or after the game. Our small-town roots and family value philosophies help us to maintain the highest standards in customer service and value. Poor Boy Oil Company. Find us around the Northland, wherever the Cardinals fly.
Back coach to coach with Larry Holley and Jill Cress as we wrap up Inside the Cardinal Playbook. Coaches, today, would you talk a little bit about the importance of the non-conference schedule for you guys, as opposed to the conference schedule, of course, but how much importance do you take in especially the wins and losses, Coach Holley?
Well, I was going to say ladies first, but since her record is 4-2 and we're 2-3, I understand you're saving the best to last.
I see, okay.
But you obviously are trying to get ready for conference play. I've always felt that you try to prepare your team for the best teams on your schedule, and that's what it's going to take to beat those folks. Being kind of the newcomers in the GLVC, obviously it's an outstanding league with several teams in the top 25 year in and year out. That's a task for us. What Coach Cress and I have tried to do as much as possible is schedule doubleheaders because we travel together in league play, and we would try to, and I think it kind of helps at home a little bit to have doubleheaders in your non-conference play. We have all doubleheaders, I think, in non-conference play, with one exception, I think, this year in terms of home games, and with one exception on the road. So we work very closely in trying to get that done. We try to have a good balance. We try to bring 3 or 4 schools in each year for guarantee games, which gives us additional home games, which hopefully helps our confidence a little bit if we're able to win those games. But it's a little bit of a balancing act. We want to have a good non-conference schedule. Certainly the tournament she plays in at Northwest, and our tournament, Missouri Western, always features top quality teams from the MIAA. So it's preparation for conference action, and hopefully it gets us ready each year.
Jill, how do you feel about that? Are the wins and losses in non-conference especially important?
I think as a confidence booster, yes. When I look at our schedule, for me, I like to be challenged a little bit and let the players get out, so we can kind of see where our team is. And again, we talked about earlier where we're heading or where we want to go. And again, our conference is strong, and especially on the men's side. I mean, they've got national champions out of there.
Sure.
But I also think it's good that you can play some teams, and Coach Holley touched on that, guarantee games where you bring them in and hopefully you can win those games and get a lot of those players playing. You have a lot of young kids in your program. You'd like to see what they can do in a game situation rather than just throwing them in a tough conference game or a tough non-conference game.
You build your rotation then a little bit. Do you either add a kid that's played well, or maybe eliminate some kids playing time? Do you build that rotation as you go into conference through this non-conference schedule?
I think every game's different. Sometimes you have a player that you put in that maybe ends up doing really well and can do some things that maybe you didn't realize through practice against the same kids every day. I think all through the year you can have rotation changes. I think you need to keep it competitive with your players so that they don't just think, if they're not playing early, they're not going to have a chance to. And I think you're always open as a coach to see improvement, and you're just going to play the kids that you think are going to get you in the best position to win the game.
Larry, you were forced to change your lineup a little bit after Reith Jaich was injured, but are you looking for somebody in some role still? Is that still part of the non-conference schedule? Well,
We're going with 3 small players now at guard. None of our guards are very big, and it has changed us. It's changed us a little bit in what we're trying to get done offensively and what our challenges are defensively. We were small to start with no centers on the roster, and now without Reith, we decided to go with a 3-guard lineup, and it's probably helped us a little bit offensively. But it varies from year to year, and certainly what you start out with is based on returning players, your experience as a coach with them, and then how the new players have meshed with them. It's not always your best 5 players that start. I've always been more concerned with who finishes the game. I think you need players who can come off the bench with energy. I know Coach Cress shares that as well, and I know every player would probably like to start. And in both our situations, I would venture a pretty good guess that all of our players were stars in high school, which means they were starters, which means they're not used to coming off the bench. So as a coach, that's one of the challenges for me each year is getting those players who have been used to starting, learning to come off the bench. And we do have we're down to 11 players right now, and 6 of them are new. And so 6 of them are adjusting. We have new players who are starting for us, but we also have newcomers who are coming off the bench for the first time, and that is an adjustment. And just learning who can do that and who struggles with that a little bit, and try to give them confidence that if they're in the game that they step in and get the job done. Because sometimes coming off the bench is very difficult because you don't necessarily expect immediate results, but you may not have a chance to make as many mistakes or have the time to get into the flow of the game that a starter does.
Real quick, last topic here. What do you like about each other's teams that you've seen so far? I know you don't get to watch each and every game entirely, but what do you like about Larry's team? What do you like about Jill's team, Larry?
I'll start with that. I like the fact they're 4-2. They have a winning record. We have a losing record. So first and foremost, I think it's remarkable that they have gone to the Northwest Missouri State Tournament and have defeated the host school 3 years in a row. Northwest Missouri State has a good program in women's basketball, and to go up there and get that done should be a confidence boost. We're playing tough schedules. They've had a couple rough games. We've had some rough games, and it's a learning experience. But in terms of their team, I like the way they run the floor. I like the way they shoot the three. I've thought about pressing a lot. I played that way in college, but haven't pulled the trigger on doing that. May do some more of that with our lack of size, but we are a very good athletic team. So I like their style of play, and certainly like their success level, and it's fun to watch.
Jill, what have you seen about Larry's team you like this year?
Yeah, I think they play with so much energy, and one thing that he's done a great job always is if you watch their bench, and I kind of point that out to my players sometimes, those kids, whether they're playing or not, are so into the game and excited for plays, and they just play with I think we play with a lot of energy. They play with kind of a different energy. The other thing that I think they do really well is they push the ball, but they're pretty disciplined with it then. I mean, they get into some plays and run some things nicely, but this year I'm really enjoying. They all like each other a lot, and not that they haven't in the past, but you can just tell when they play, they're really enjoying each other too, and it's fun to watch. And all of them, the kids on the bench, the coaches, it's just a different energy that is fun to watch them play.
That's Coach to Coach inside the Cardinal Playbook, and I'll be back with a final word in a moment.
I'm a helpful smile in the meat department.
My favorite season of the year is grilling season.
We can give you grilling tips and recipes. No matter if it's our Amana beef, Ivy Angus beef,
Hormel pork, or marinated chicken.
T-Bone's New York Strips Blaze.
Any way you want cut, you got it.
I show people how they can tell that it's medium rare without even cutting into it.
I am a helpful
Amana Angus.
Expert griller.
Tip-giving smile.
And that's my promise.
Foreclosure, repossession, garnishment. Costello and Farah can fight for you.
Are creditors threatening to take your property or your money? My office has helped thousands of people in the Kansas City area protect their assets through debt reorganization or bankruptcy protection. Call my office at 816-505-HELP and see if we can help you protect your assets and get you back on your feet.
The attorneys of Costello and Farah, lawyers who will fight for you. Call 816-505-HELP today.
Thanks for joining us this week inside the Cardinal Playbook, and our thanks to head coach Larry Holley and to Jill Cress of the women's basketball team at William Jewell. Our director today has been Heather Rice, and we'll see you next week inside the Cardinal Playbook.